Hello, everybody. Daniel Bloodworth here, joined by Michael Damiani, because I just got to check out a little bit of Alzara Radiant Echoes, which is announcing Kickstarter this week. They were out there before under the name of Project Seed, if you remember that. But this, like I said, they're starting their Kickstarter. The game itself won't be around until 2026. But they're really just, showing it off kind of for the first time and letting us see the game in action. So, last week I was in a Discord session with the creative director and CEO of Studio Camellia, who is based out of France. And, they kind of gave us a whole breakdown. And Damiani, you got to watch a recording of some of that as well.
Yep.
So Studio Camellia is a smaller French team that wants to specialize in JRPGs, which is interesting because I feel like this is kind of like a French thing. They're like, everyone wants to do JRPGs.
Yeah, there's been like a history of a few JRPG style games that have come out or were at one point, announced that had like French studios behind them. So, and it was very surprising to hear them say that the world needs more JRPGs. And it's like, okay. I mean, I guess it's nice to see other parts of the world try to have their take on it, because it's like the term. You saw like how there were some Japanese developers who were like even not happy with the term JRPG, but maybe, seeing it being, adopted by other cultures and seeing what it means to them, maybe that would like help that understanding, that barrier. But yeah, like it was really cool to listen to what they were saying and their inspirations and their passions, as I know we'll get into here in a second.
Yeah. So it's headed by their CEO Emma Delange, who gave the presentation, and she was like, "This is like her childhood dream," and she was talking about like inspirations from Golden Sun, Final Fantasy X, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and Lost Odyssey for gameplay, which I think is an interesting mix in there.
Those are all very excellent choices if you are trying to make a JRPG, I would say. That's a very good combination, very strong combination right there.
Yeah, so they have 15 full-time staff on their core team. They've also brought in composer Motoi Sakuraba, who's worked on Golden Sun, Tales games, a lot of like Mario Golf and like Mario Tennis back in the day. What's funny is they keep crediting Sakuraba for like Dark Souls, and I'm like, they did some Dark Souls music, but it's not like the main thing I would think of.
Honestly, it's like I get it. They're just trying to put something a little bit like more recent and big name. Yeah, I mean they put like Valkyrie Profile. He's done a lot of that, and it's a pretty big name. I mean, if you wanted to like just throw out the big guns, they could have like put out like Super Smash Brothers, because like one-off composing for that too. It's like, but it's like the Tales series. Like a few like Nintendo things, the Tales series, definitely like the Tales series, and what was the other one? He did one I really liked. I forget. It was like a while ago, back in like the early 2010s, and I'm just forgetting. Resonance of Fate. Also known by its other name. Edge of Eternity, or not Edge of Eternity. What was it called? I don't even remember what.
Wasn't it Edge of Eternity? Something like that.
Was it? I keep forgetting if it was called that or not. But anyway, that had a really good soundtrack too. Like it was one of my like favorites at the time. And obviously, it said Golden Sun. Golden Sun is a really good soundtrack. So
that's I think if you listen to a few of Sakuraba's things, there's a very distinct signature style. But what's they were saying is, since this is set in the Mediterranean, that they really asked him to kind of like pull in more of those influences and maybe go outside of the box a bit more. They also have a Kickstarter goal, like stretch goal for Sakuraba to do the whole soundtrack. So I guess kind of like with Sea of Stars, they got Mitsuda in there. Mitsuda just did a couple of themes. And then they had their own composer do the rest. So I think kind of similarly here is like, okay, if we can get Sakuraba, if we can get the cash to pay Sakuraba for the whole thing, we'll get Sakuraba for the whole thing. If not, he'll probably just do like the main theme.
That would be really good to see. By the way, it's End of Eternity, not Edge of Eternity.
End of Eternity. Okay.
Yeah.
Edge of Eternity was like some dumb movie or something, probably.
That's Edge of Tomorrow, but
Okay, there we
yeah.
go. There we go. They also brought in Yoshiro Ambe to design the lead characters, and they worked on Trials of Mana as well as Genshin Impact and Fire Emblem Heroes.
Yeah, I'm probably more familiar with their work in Fire Emblem Heroes since I played that early on when that first came out. So I those nice character portraits of like multiple versions, like their default one, their battle pose one, and then like when they've taken damage, it's like kind of funny.
Yeah. And then one of their staff, Marlene Gray, is doing the monster designs. But yeah, this is set in the Mediterranean, so there's a lot of references to different Mediterranean cultures. But it's just really funny to me just to see a lot of those similarities to like Sea of Stars, because like both games were inspired by Golden Sun, both linked up with like well-known Japanese composers, and both from French teams wanting to make JRPGs with like elemental abilities that you use inside and outside of combat. The biggest difference with Alzara, though, is that instead of being a 2D gameplay, that it's a full 3D game. There's a 2D overworld map, but like when you're wandering the world and in combat and stuff, it's 3D. And then the four characters, main characters, very Avatar here. Kayla, who's fire, Adil, who's air, Hugest, who's earth, and Nakil, who's water. And Kayla and Adil are kind of like best friends. Hugest comes in from an invading army because you're the place that you live in is like the last nation that has magic, and so other nations are envious and wanting to come in here. But Hugest is like a defector from the army there. And then Nikhil is a hermit, some kind of sage or something, water sage, who joins up with you later in the game. So,
Yeah, when I saw a deal, I did a double take because I thought it was Claude from Fire Emblem Three Houses for a second, and I was like, "Oh, very similar look." But they're definitely like the elemental vibes. I would say like, I mean, I guess like Earth, because Hugest is like kind of like big and hulking, so it's like that, but like the kind of like the color template for their outfits, kind of makes it very apparent. So like they're definitely not like hiding it. Although Kayla design reminded me a little bit of what's that character from Chrono? Was it Chrono Cross Kid?
Kid, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit like I don't know. For a second, I was like, is that like Kid? Like I mean, a little bit. Like I'm seeing some of like the inspirations there, but it's like kind of nice, like the outfits they're wearing and stuff, and obviously. Each element, it's like sure, you like it's like a trope of character design, like you have to make them stand out. So like I think they did a good job, at least like it feels clear which one they represent.
Yeah. And like I said, there's a 2D overworld map that was actually illustrated by one of the devs from Chained Echoes, which is great.
There you go.
There is a ship that we see in the trailer that you use to travel between different islands. And then combat is turn-based. They also said there's random encounters in the Q&A afterwards. But they say that they're working on ways of reducing those pain points to like try to make them not like super annoying. And there's also customization so that you can kind of find your sweet spot. I don't know exactly what that'll be like, if it's just like a slider that goes back and forth to how frequent they are, but I think that's good. It's interesting though that's something that they wanted to do for that style. But with the turn-based battles, you do have front row and back row.
Yes,
and the way that this position works is really interesting because there's a couple of different things that play in. First of all, is they determine what types of spells that you can use.
Mm-hmm.
So front row, you're doing like offensive magic, and back row, you're doing support magic within your element. Also, front row, I guess like you're consuming magic. They call it echo, and then you go to the back row to like restore echo. So I think that even that interplay in itself, I think, can be interesting to play around with. Of like when you need to charge up which character.
Yeah, it definitely feels a little bit like, I mean, other games did it since, but they mentioned Final Fantasy X as inspiration, but like
Yeah.
the swapping in and out of members to like let them go, get out of battle and get out of harm's way versus like something like this where it's switching up the right time, like someone's used up all their echo and they're like, all right, get back, recharge, while someone else steps in front for you to take the brunt.
And
So
then
like seems kind of similar.
yeah, and then the really interesting part to experiment with is this swapping feature. So they're talking about how different characters share magic, and so
Yeah.
you go when you swap with somebody from the front and the back rows. Now you are sharing that same element. So the fire person swaps with the air person. Now they can use both fire and air magic, plus they combine. So you can use thunder element as well now.
Oh yeah, this is definitely like I mean, it's a good like. It sounds great. It's also like, I mean, it's a trope that's been around forever. That's like really good. I mean, I think I remember first maybe seeing it in like in Naruto where he has to make Rasengan. Like it's not his same like chakra, so he has to like learn to use like a different one. And then was it the last story?
Yeah,
Also from same studio that Lost Odyssey. So little inspiration. That whole combat system was about fusing together different like spells and abilities and seeing how it affected, like it was like all ground looking AoEs, but it produced different effects and like it was all about mixing and matching. And it was probably the most unique battle system I've seen. I don't know if anyone ever tried to copy it, so I'm very interested to see more of how this plays out, because those types of concepts of like, it's very easy just to have like casters have an element, or like mages that just can master all different elements, but like how they can more uniquely interact with each other when they're different specialists and produce different effects, like that's, and using them in different situations, that could be a good hook potentially.
yeah. And they said that we've got the four primary elements that we went over, but overall there are 10 elements total. So it'd be interesting to see how some of those pop up.
Yep. I'm curious what they'll call the other elements, because recently, like Fortnite did an Avatar: The Last Airbender event, and they had like 6 chakras. I'm like, well, there's only 4 elements. What else? Like was sound and light, and I'm like, okay, well,
Okay.
sound. It was like sound and light, but like some people do like light and dark. Like
Yeah.
we'll see what they have cooked up. But I mean, there was one thing later that I saw in a clip, because they showed a few like short clips
Yeah.
of looping footage where the main character was like using lightning to apply it to their steel blade and giving it like a
Right.
lightning effect, which is pretty cool. I love seeing like swords, like it's always fire. Everyone is a fire, but also reminded me a little bit of like lightning bending, because Avatar with like Azula is like, and Zuko a bit. I was like, okay, this is kind of cool because they're the fire benders. So I was like, all right, yeah, this is cool.
And then let's see. Oh, there are going to be summons called Zals. There's 10 of those, so I would guess that they are each tied to one of the elements. And they talked about, I didn't get a lot of detail on it, but they talked about giving offerings to them, and I guess if you give them enough offerings, then you can summon them. So yeah, there's some system there to dig into for the summons. So that'll be cool, and it'd be interesting to see like what all those creatures look like, and hopefully they have nice, cool animations they can do. And then just like some other little detail bits, they said they're doing this Kickstarter. They're not going to do early access, but they are going to have a demo down the line
Nice.
for people to check it out. And then another one of the stretch goals that they mentioned is having voice acting for English and Japanese.
Pretty important to have. I'll be
Yeah.
honest. Like, so I forgot. Did they say there is it going to have French voice acting by default, or no? Currently, no voice acting. Sorry.
I think that there's either no voice acting or limited voice acting by default, but it sounds like English and Japanese are what they're focusing
Gotcha.
on.
I will say I prefer all or nothing. Like either just go no voice acting. It's the worst when you get like some scenes voiced and then others aren't. It just is extremely jarring to someone like me. So I do hope they hit that milestone, because it adds so much when you have like
Yeah.
main story stuff just fully voiced. It's great.
Yeah, I think for me it's like I can deal with some limited voice acting, but it's like I think it's when it gets to like that sort of like 40% to 50% area where it's like, oh, it sounds like every scene's gonna be voiced, but then you like do one line and then you just stop. Like, what? But anyways, yeah, hopefully they get that voice acting stretch goal. But it seems cool. Obviously, very early days. But you know, I like everything that they're saying about their studio and their values, and you know, again, this coming as more of a passion project is pretty cool. Will be interesting to see what else they kind of show on the Kickstarter, and then after that, obviously, they've got a lot of work to do before 2026. But yeah, any other thoughts from you to kind of like wrap it up, like just overall impressions?
Nah, I mean, they have a good, basic kind of like concept there, and it's really about being able to follow through if they get the funding for it. So, I mean, definitely have some good name recognition there, some good inspirations to draw upon. I would say maybe I don't remember. Oh, they showed they did show a trailer.
Yeah.
But I could foresee some people asking for maybe to see like a little bit more than what like was shown in like the presentation at some point, to be like a little bit more convinced. I will say that because people like seeing. Now, the more you can show in action, even if it's like early, I think people are much more understanding when you're up front, because seeing the characters in 3D and the things they're showing in 3D, I think it showed good potential there. So I guess I'd like to see like a little bit more of it. So I hope they don't, it's not too long before they can like show off something, like maybe just like a one battle in real time. Just a basic battle would be nice. Or just like going around like the 2D map, the one you're exploring, just like maybe a short clip of that, like just like anything like that, I feel like could help. But otherwise, yeah, good potential, and I hope it works out for them.
Cool. Yeah, head over to their Kickstarter to get more information if you're interested. And thanks for watching, everybody.